In this video, I'm going to be giving you a complete guide on every enemy you're going to be facing in Blox Fruits. The very first NPC you go against depends on whether you choose Pirate or Marine. If you choose Marine, then you're going to be fighting against the Trainee, which is a level 0 NPC that gives you 300 XP and 350 belly. And the exact same is for the Pirates, but you start off by fighting the Bandits. Once you're done with these quests, you move on to the jungle, and the first NPC you fight here is the Monkey, and you have to be level 10 to fight this guy. He gives you a total of 2300 XP as well as 800 belly. Next up, we got the Gorilla, and this guy is a level 15 NPC who gives you 4500 XP and 1200 belly per quest. Then we got the very first boss of the game, and this is the Gorilla King, which is a level 20 boss that gives you 9500 XP as well as 2000 belly. The next island we move on to is the Pirate Village, and here you're going to be fighting the Pirate, which is a level 30 NPC that gives you 13,000 XP as well as 3000 belly, and these guys actually use a cutlass as their weapon. Next up, we got the Boots, and these guys are level 40. They give you 22,000 XP when you kill them as well as 3500 belly, and they use the Iron Mace as their weapon. Next up, we got a boss, Bobby, also known as Buggy, because that's actually his true name, but they had to change it for copyright. This guy's level 55. He gives you 45,000 XP as well as 8,000 belly. And just like the Gorilla King from before, he actually does have hockey. This guy also has the chop fruit as well as a cutlass. The next island we got here is the desert, and the very first NPC you fight here are called the Desert Bandits, which are level 60 NPCs that give you 45,000 XP as well as 4,000 belly, and they use the cutlass to fight. Next up, we got the Desert Officers, who are level 75. They give you 65,000 XP as well as 4,500 belly. These guys also happen to use the cutlass to fight. The next island we got here is the Frozen Village. The first NPC you fight here is called the Snow Bandit, who are level 90, and these guys use a katana as their weapon. Next up, we got the Snowmen, which are level 100 NPCs. They give you 150,000 XP when you kill them, and they use the basic combat fighting style. Next up, we got the Yeti, and this is a level 105 boss who gives you 220,000 XP as well as 10,000 belly. Moving on to the Marine Fortress Island, the first NPCs you fight here are called the Chief Petty Officers, who are level 120. They give you 225,000 XP as well as 6,000 belly per quest, and they use the dual katana to fight. And directly after that, we got a boss quest, and this is the Vice Admiral, who's a level 130 boss. He gives you 415,000 XP as well as 15,000 belly, and this guy actually uses the triple katana to fight. Moving on to Skylands, the first NPC we got here is the Sky Bandit, who's level 150 and uses the dual katana to fight. Then we got the Dark Masters, who are level 175, and these guys use the Iron Mace to fight, same as the Brutes from before. Moving on to the Prison Island, we got a butt ton of enemies here. The first ones are the Prisoners, who are level 190. Then we got the Dangerous Prisoners, who are level 210. They give you 780,000 XP when you kill them, and they also use the Cutlass to fight. Next up, we got a boss called the Warden, who's level 220 and also uses the dual katanas to fight. Then we got the Chief Warden, who's level 230, gives you 1 million XP and uses the Warden Sword to fight, which you have a chance of getting dropped once you kill them. Next up, we got a level 240 boss called Swan, who gives you 1.6 million XP when you complete his quest. And this guy actually has the Spider Fruit. And this guy's basically just Doflamingo from One Piece. I mean, look at the similarities. Moving on to the Coliseum Island, the first NPC, we got the Toga Warriors, who are level 250. And they actually don't have any weapons, so they use the basic combat styles to fight. The next NPCs are level 275. And these guys also use the basic combat style to fight. Moving on to the Magma Village, the first NPCs we got here are the Military Soldiers, who are level 300. And they also happen to use the katana to fight, and they also have 50% of their hockey unlocked. Then we got the Military Spies, who are level 325, and these guys can actually use the flash type ability, so they're going to be zipping around you the whole time when you fight them. Next up, we got a boss called the Magma Admiral, who's basically a Kainu from One Piece, and this guy's level 350 and he uses the Magma Fruit to fight. Anyways, moving on to Underwater City, the first NPCs here are called the Fishman Warriors, who are level 375, and they use the basic katana to fight. Next up, we got the Fishman Commandors, who are level 400. They give you 3.35 million XP per quest as well as 9,000 belly, and these guys use the triple katana to fight. Then we got the boss of the Underwater City, who is called the Fishman Lord, and this guy happens to be level 425, and this guy uses the trident to fight, which is a pretty cool sword, so I recommend getting your hands on this as soon as you can. Moving on to Upper Skylands, we got a butt ton of NPCs here. The first ones are called God's Guards, who are level 450, and they use the dual-headed blade to fight. Then we got the Shandas, who are level 475, and these guys actually use the basic combat style to fight. Then we got the Whisper Boss, who's a level 500 boss. He gives you 7.5 million XP as well as 15,000 belly, and this guy uses a bazooka to fight it, which you have a chance of getting dropped once you kill him. Moving on, we got the Royal Guards, who are level 525. They give you 5.8 million XP as well as 9,500 belly. Next up, we got the Royal Soldiers, who are level 550. They give you 6.3 million XP as a quest, as well as 9,750 belly. And we got the big boss of Upper Skylands, the Thunder God, who's a level 575 boss. He gives you 8 million XP per quest, as well as 20,000 belly. And this guy actually uses the Rumble Fruit as well as the Pole V1. And I recommend farming this boss just for the Pole V1, because when you upgrade it to V2, it becomes one of the most overpowered swords in the whole game. Moving on to the final island of the first sea, we got the Galley Pirates, and these guys are level 625, and they use the basic katana to fight. Then we got the Galley Captains, who are level 650, and these guys use the cutlass as well as hockey to fight. Moving on to the final big bad of the first sea, the Cyborg boss, who's a level 670 boss. He gives you 10 million XP as well as 20,000 belly when you kill him, and he also drops you the cool shades, which are pretty cool accessories. Anyways, moving on to the second sea, the very first NPC we got here are Raiders, who are level 700. They give you 8.75 million XP per quest as well as 10,250 belly. Then we got the Mercenaries, who are level 725, and they actually use nothing to fight, so they fight you with a basic combat fighting style. Then we got the very first boss of the second sea, and this is the Diamond boss, who's level 750, and this guy uses the longsword to fight. Moving on, we got the Swan Pirates, who are located pretty close to the first quest giver. These guys are level 775, and they use the katana to fight. Then we got the Factory Staff, who are level 800. They give you 13 million XP per quest as well as 11,000 belly. And these guys actually have a random chance of spawning in with the Bomb Fruit, the Smoke Fruit, and the Spike Fruit. Next up, we got a boss called Jeremy, who's literally level 850 and gives you 16 million XP per quest as well as 25,000 belly. And this guy actually uses the Spring Fruit to fight. Moving on to the next island called Green Zone, the first NPCs here are called the Marine Lieutenants, who are level 875 and use the katana as a weapon. Then we got the Marine Captains, who are level 900, and these guys use the katana as well as hockey. Then we got the Vegeta boss, who's literally Fujitora from One Piece. This guy's level 925, and he obviously uses the Gravity Fruit to fight, as well as the Gravity Cane. Moving on to the Graveyard Island, the first NPCs we got here are the Zombies, who are level 950 and give you 19 million XP per quest. Then we got the Vampires, who are level 975, and these guys actually use Flash Step just like the military spies from before, so they're pretty tricky to fight against because they're going to be zipping all over the place. The next island is called the Snow Mountains, and here you can find the Snow Trooper NPCs, who are level 1000, and these guys use the dual katana to fight. Next up, we got the Winter Warriors, who are level 1050, and these guys use the basic combat style to fight. Moving on to the Hot and Cold Islands, the first NPC we got here are the Lab Subordinates, who are level 1100. They give you 25.5 million XP per quest as well as 12,250 belly, and these guys actually use a pipe to fight. Next up, we got the Horde Warriors, who are level 1125, and these guys actually use the Ice Fruit to fight, so they're pretty tricky to play against. Moving on to the boss of this island, we got the Smoke Admiral, who's level 1150, and this guy uses the Smoke Fruit as well as the Jite Sword. Moving on, we got the Magma Ninjas, who are level 1175, and these guys use the dual-headed blade to fight. Then we got the Lava Pirates, who are level 1200, and these guys obviously use the Magma Fruit to fight. Moving on to the Cursed Ship, we got the Ship Deckhand, who's level 1250. Then we got the Ship Engineer, who's level 1275. These guys also use Flash Tips, so they're pretty tricky to fight. Then we got the Ship Steward, who are basically the cooks on the ship, who are level 1300. How does that make any sense? How can cooks be so strong? I guess it makes sense if they're all like Sanji. Then we got the Ship Officers, who are level 1325, and these guys also use the Cutlass to fight. Moving on to the Ice Castle, the first NPCs here are called the Arctic Warriors, who are level 1350, and these guys use the katana as their weapon. Next up, we got the Snow Lurker, who's level 1375, and these guys also use the Ice Fruit to fight. Moving on, we got the Awakened Ice Admiral, who's a level 1400 boss, and he obviously uses the Awakened Ice Fruit to fight. I mean, it's literally in his name. The next island we got here is the Forgotten Island, and the first NPC is called the Sea Soldier, who's level 1425, and this guy uses the Water Kung Fu fighting style. Next up, we got the Water Fighter, who's level 1450, and these guys also use Water Kung Fu, but the difference is that these guys use hockey, so they're pretty dangerous. Moving on to the final big bad of the second sea, we got the Tidekeeper, who's a level 1475 boss, who uses the Dragon Trident to fight, and it's an incredibly overpowered sword, so I recommend getting your hands on this. Anyways, moving on to the third sea, the very first NPCs here are called the Pirate Millionaires, and these guys are level 1500, and they use the Bicento to fight. Next up, we got the Pistol Billionaires, who are level 1525, and they use the Refined Musket to fight. Then we got the very first boss of the third sea, the Stone Boss, who's level 1550, and this guy uses a Bomb Fruit to fight. Moving on to the next one, we got a butt ton of NPCs here. The first one is called the Dragon Crew Warrior, who uses a longsword to fight. Then we got the Dragon Crew Archer, who's level 1600 and uses the Serpent Bow to fight. Next up, we got the Female Islander, who's level 1625 and uses the iron mace to fight. Next up we got the giant islander who's level 1650 and just uses haki as well as the basic combat style to fight. Then we got the island empress who's level 1675 and uses the old love fruit as well as haki to fight. Moving on to the next island, the first NPCs we got here are the marine commandors who are level 1700 and use a dual katana to fight. Then we got the marine rear admiral who's level 1725 and they use the spin fruit to fight. Then we got the kilo admiral who's a pretty overpowered boss even though she uses the kilo fruit, who's level 1750. Moving on to the next island, which is the turtle island. This literally has 3 different quest givers, so you already know it's gonna have a butt ton of NPCs. The first one are the fisherman raiders who are level 1775 and they use the shark saw to fight. Then we got the fisherman captains who are level 1800 and these guys use the trident to fight. Next up we got the forest pirates who are level 1825 and they use the basic combat style as well as haki. Then we got the mythological pirates who are level 1850 and they use the electric fighting style. Then we got Captain Elephant who's actually a boss that's level 1875 and these guys use the twin hooks to fight. Next up we got the jungle pirates who are level 1900 and they use the dark step fighting style. Next up we got the musketeer pirates who use the Cavender sword as well as flash step. Next up we got the beautiful pirates who are level 1950 and this guy also uses the Cavender sword to fight. He is a pretty overpowered boss. Moving on to the haunted castle, the first NPC we got here are the reborn skeletons who use the dark step fighting style. Next up we got the living zombies who are literally level 2000 and these guys actually use flash step as well as the superhuman M1 ability, so you already know these guys are overpowered. Next up we got the demonic souls who are level 2025 and they use the flame fruit to fight. Then we got the possessed mummies who are level 2050 and these guys use the dark fruit to fight. Moving on to the sea of treats, there's a butt ton of NPCs here. The first one is the peanut scout who's level 2075 and uses the cutlass to fight. Then we got the peanut president who is level 2100 and uses haki as well as the basic combat fighting style. Then we got the ice cream chef who's level 2125 and uses the dark step fighting style. Then we got the ice cream commandor who's level 2150 and uses a dual-headed blade to fight. Then we got the cake queen who's actually a really overpowered boss that's level 2175 and she uses the buddy sword to fight. Next up we got cookie crafters who are level 2200 and this one uses the warden sword. Next we got the cake guards who are level 2225 and these NPCs use the triple katana. Next up we got the baking staff who are level 2250 and these guys just use haki. Next we got the head bakers who are level 2275 and these guys just use the flame fruit. Next are the cacao warriors who are level 2300 and they use haki with the basic fighting style. Same goes for the chocolate bar batter, but the only difference is that these guys are level 2325. Next up we got the sweet thieves who are level 2350 as well as the candy rebels who are level 2375 and these guys just use haki. Next up we got the candy pirates who are level 2400 as well as the snow demons who are level 2425 and just like the ones from before, these guys just use haki as well as the basic combat fighting style. Moving on to the next island, the first NPCs here are called the island outlaws who are level 2450 and they use nothing but the combat and haki fighting style. And the same goes for the rest of the NPCs on this list. Next up we got the island boys who are level 2475. After that we got the sun-kissed warriors who are level 2500 and these guys literally give you 137 million XP per quest. And after that we got the island champions who are level 2525. That's pretty much it.